we got that new software stuff or what?
Uh-huh.
Are we keeping with Charles Egan?
That sounds decent. We just try to find something we all can use it together. All right, let's go. It's time.
Megan's not here. She's on her way.
Hey, oh, where's she at?
Having printer problems.
Oh, I saw it today. Okay, perfect. I saw it today. I didn't get this, but I saw it today. That's nice.
Are they always on or what?
If it's red, it's hot.
Okay. Hot mic then, right?
If it's red, it's hot.
Well, it's got a two carburetor in the shop.
Oh, okay.
In the shop. This house is built for me. This got so many components. It's crazy.
Really? That's the main thing.
Plus, it's storage over.
Let them know we're gonna make it.
Jasmine. Who's doing a prayer? Kennedy. Trail to the cross. Okay, the time is 6:03. I call this meeting of the Hillsborough City Council to order. First of all, we'll have our invocation by Pastor Kennedy from the Trail to the Cross Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Bow with me, please. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening to invoke your blessing over this meeting of the City Council. Lord, we've got so many things to look forward to here in Hillsborough, in Hill County, all the new businesses and goings on. And Lord, perhaps now more than ever, we need wisdom and discernment to see it all through. So Lord, I just pray for our council, our mayor, the folks that are here to be represented tonight. Lord, that you give them all a spirit of unity and wisdom, fellowship for their community and love. Lord, we thank you for all the many blessings in this country. We pray for our president, for our representative leaders in Washington and Austin and right here in Hill County, Hillsborough. Lord, we ask you to give them wisdom and discernment. We especially lift up the fighting men and women who serve to protect our freedoms, our police, EMS, and firefighters. Lord, keep your hedge of protection around them. Lord, we thank you for all our many blessings again. We do so in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Please turn to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will now hear statements from persons wishing to address the council. Please note your name and address. You're limited to 3 minutes per person. The first one I have here is Frank Tillman. Thank you, Mr. Tillman.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Frank Kellner. I live at 413 Alexander, Hillsborough, Texas. I'm here this evening to talk about the nuisance of that we've been having lately about the non-licensed peddlers or the non-permitted peddlers that come up. And some of the items that they're peddling are, number one is roofing. Number two would be electricity. They're trying to get you to change your electricity from one company to another. The third item would be windows, new storm windows for your home, this and that. You know, and then fourth would be internet. Lately, just this week, Rise Broadband came by and was saying some pretty bad things about Vive Internet and stuff like that. And I just told them, hey, we're with Vive and we're totally satisfied. And asked him, do you have a peddler's permit? And he said no. And I said, well, you need to get one. Go by public safety and ask for one of their people, and they will give you a peddler's permit. But you're not, you know, you need to have a peddler's permit, and I think the citizens of Hillsborough need to know and be informed that that's what you need to tell them. And if they refuse to leave, just tell them you're going to call the police. I've done it. I mean, they're a nuisance. They're becoming, over the years, I've lived here, not just speaking off the cuff, I've lived here 46 years. I can't remember a time when we've been hit so many times by people peddling stuff. Tree trimming, they come up and ask about tree trimming. Can I trim your trees in this? And you don't even know them. And you look outside, there's not a vehicle parked anywhere. Where's your truck at? Where's your car at? Oh, it's way down the street. Well, that's a pretty good indicator of why they park way down the street. You know what that is. Also, solar panels. Trying to hit me up for solar panels. I don't know how anybody else feels and don't care. I don't need solar panels. You know, and so this is what I'm trying to bring to everyone's attention tonight about the rash of people. You may have some, I guess, I don't know if you consider me elderly. I'm 73, but I can still protect myself if I need to. But, you know, hey, let's watch out for this community in this city. The last one that was there was a gentleman that was selling pest control. I asked him where he was from. He said Fort Worth. I said, why don't you do that in Fort Worth? Why are you doing it down here in Hillsborough? And where's your vehicle at with ABC Pest Control written on the side of it? Well, it's way down the street. Most people that are legitimate and want to be, you know, heard, that they'll be in a vehicle. At least I was, and I've been in selling a long time. I was in selling a long time. I sold a lot of things in my, you know, careers. So that, and I would advise the citizens.
I'm sorry, but your time is up.
I'm time. Okay, thank you very much for letting me talk. Appreciate it.
Next, we have Brenda White.
This will probably need to be lower. I'm Brenda White, and I live on 424 Corsicana Street here in Hillsborough. And I just wanted to say a thanks to the City Council for your service to our community and being here day in and day out, helping us out and meeting and making decisions for our community. I appreciate your thoughtfulness for this. I wanted to give a shout out, especially to Leanne. We've had some issues on our street that we've been trying to resolve, and Leanne is working to get those accomplished. So I just wanted to say thank you for helping us out with getting that accomplished. And I know you have many complaints, but I just wanted to say a big thank you to you guys. I just look forward to seeing the efforts of how we're going to move forward in a positive and a constructive way. Thank you.
I'm not used to this. Next, we have Melissa Autry.
I'm Melissa Autry. I live in Brandon, Texas, and I'm here to represent the Hillsborough Farmers Market. Today, our country is facing uncertain times, like green energy and data centers dominate the conversation. People are distressful, and for life seems harder than it should. We often wish things could go back to the way they were, but we know that's not possible. However, every Saturday morning on the courthouse square, the Hillsborough Farmers Market offers something rare, a moment of stability. Shoppers come to buy produce, but they also come to visit, to connect, and to slow down. Week after week, they return. There's no rush, no politics, and no pressure. The atmosphere is steady and the customers are loyal. The application that's being proposed today is designed for outside events or temporary markets. After 13 years, the Hillsborough Farmers Market is neither. It's made up of local farmers across the county. During COVID, our market was deemed essential, and we continued to show up, providing fresh vegetables and homemade goods when much of the world had shut down. I'm here today to ask the council to please grandfather the farmers market from this annual application process. This requirement will not benefit the market as it currently operates. That said, I do agree that the market in the city of Hillsborough should come to a reasonable agreement, whether that means closing during festivals, reducing hours, or finding another compromise that we're willing to work together. Our greatest challenge is consistency. Farmers bring vegetables every single week during the summer, and if we're unable to set up on a regular, uninterrupted basis, customers will stop coming to the downtown Hillsborough. Consistency is what keeps them returning, and their presence supports not only the market, but the surrounding small businesses as well. The SNAP and Double Up program have been a true blessing to our community, helping families have access to fresh, healthy food while supporting our local farmers. And today I respectfully ask the council to grant a waiver for the Hillsborough Farmers Market. We are not monopolizing Covington Street. We are contributing to the vitality of this community. Please allow us to continue serving Hillsborough in the way we have for the past 13 years, reliably, consistency, and with the community in mind. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Linda Polly.
Good evening. I'm with the Save Hill County Group and also with the Farmers Market Coalition Advocacy Group. And I'm here in regards to the Farmers Market. And I would just like to ask the council please today to place a waiver on item number 9 in regards to the Farmers Market. This is a rural community. We are a farming and ranch community. That is what our foundation has been built on. The farmers market has been here now for 13 years, and that was all due to Judge Lewis and Dana Robinson when they were on the creative board. And it has been a long-standing commitment from the local farmers market here, and they have so many guidelines that they have to have in place that they cannot depend on having someone dictate what their dates are going to be. They have deadlines with SNAP, and they also have guidelines under the USDA. And at this time, we just feel that it's important. And with visiting with several people with our Save Hill County group, a lot of people feel like the farmers market has been targeted the last 5 years. And maybe that wasn't the intention, but that certainly is the opinion of a lot of people here in Hill County. And the Hill County the square, the Hillsborough Square, it doesn't say Hillsborough Square, it says Courthouse Square. And so would you guys please consider passing a proclamation that from the first Saturday in May until the last Saturday in October would be for the farmers market. And we understand Charro Fest and all of that, but would you just please consider that giving this organization that's already given 13 years, I don't believe we have another thing except maybe Bonds Alley that's given 13 years to this county or to this city. Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have Basil Zangari.
All right, I'm here to address the what happened at the farmers market involving the Chamber of Commerce trespass issue. Because once again, it appears the city is operating through backdoor channels instead of legal process. Tiffany Barron sits on that chamber board. Megan Henderson serves as an ex officio member connected to that board. And somehow a trespass action involving me was allegedly pushed forward without proper paperwork, without clear authority, and without written notice, without a stated term of trespass, and without any appeal process or paperwork. That is not due process. That is not transparency, and that is not professional government. Instead, 2 officers interrupted me while I was lawfully conducting business at the farmers market, created a public scene, and turned what should have been a civil or administrative issue into another example of intimidation by badge. That is exactly why I filed an internal affairs complaint, and I'm expecting it to be investigated seriously, not buried nor ignored, and not handled like the other half-done investigations, especially the one into Samantha Montez with the credit card fraud concerns I already brought directly to Megan Henderson. And this looks familiar, doesn't it? Looks just like the Terry Dickman incident, where officers were allegedly used to escalate a situation, make a public example out of someone, and then the city hides behind the paperwork. Delay and excuses after the damage are already done. So I have a simple question. Who's actually running the city? Is it the council? Is it the city manager? Is it the chamber? Is it the EDC? Or is it some small circle of insiders sitting in overlapping boards making decisions behind closed doors while the citizens are stuck paying the bill? Why are citizens not getting straight answers from the EDC, Natasha Sawyer, Jessica True, Megan Henderson, Tony Kane, and Mayor Scott Johnson, who's absent tonight? People who seem to keep showing up around the same boards, the same deals, the same money, and the same lack of transparency. Why does the city suddenly never have any money when it comes to infrastructure, water, basic services, and public records, but always seems to find the money for events, pet projects, image campaigns, and political theater? You want to raise utility rates on citizens while spending money to control the narrative? You want transparency when it benefits you, but silence when citizens start asking real questions. As for the police department, if this is what Hillsborough taxpayers are funding, then maybe it's time to seriously discuss disbanding it and allocating those funds to services. Because right now, too many citizens see not as public servants, but as hired goons and glorified security guards for city hall politics. The city does not need more intimidation. It needs accountability. It does not need more backroom deals. It needs public records, open meetings, honest answers, and leadership and service to people. I only have 2 more questions. Why did you sell your house to or buy your house from Delwyn Hinkle? Why did you just put your house on the market last week? What land deals are you guys involved in with the EDC? Thank you.
Council asked the staff to address any issues. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda from last week. Does anybody have any, I don't feel like the need to rattle those off again. Does anybody have any concerns or corrections to last week's agenda as noted? Okay. Next, we will deliberate and we need to act on the approval. Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, City Secretary.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay. Now we'll go to the regular agenda. The first item is to deliberate and act on a resolution appointing a member to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Richard?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We have a vacancy on the Planning and Zoning Commission created by the resignation of Commissioner Matthew Southard. We've received one application from Joe Dennison, and it is the recommendation of staff that he be appointed to fill that vacancy on a term set to expire in 2027.
Aye.
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 Next item is to deliberate and act on a resolution appointing a member to the Airport Advisory Board. Mr. Graham?
Good morning. I'm going to give it to everybody. Airport Board recently just had a vacancy come due because Chuck Snyder moving out of state. We have our Irene Benaril, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and then Tommy Eskin Jr. have both submitted applications to serve that remaining time slot, which would be October 2027. Staff's recommending approval for Irene Benaril, who works at Hill College.
I move that we appoint per recommendation of staff. Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, item number 9, deliberate and act on a resolution approving the use of city streets for recurring market events, including the establishment of an annual application process, deadlines for requests and guidelines to ensure fair and equitable access to downtown public spaces.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'm here this evening on behalf of the Main Street Program for this item, which really just seeks to create a process. We've been very lucky to have the Hillsborough Farmers Market with us for 13 years, and we want to ensure that they continue to have fair and equitable access to the courthouse area and to that space whenever they would like it. So while the city grows, we also want to make sure that new residents, new programs, new coalitions, organizations, et cetera, also have that same equitable use. This is really not about limiting anybody's access, but really just making sure that there is early coordination to make sure that any event in that space is successful, and that is in standards with safety and all of the events that could be going on at that time.
Okay, council members, have any questions, concerns? Do we have some discussion?
So, on this, right, so if they won't come in on the Saturdays, if they come in, so what do we have to do?
It's just about communicating, I believe before December 31st of the previous year, hey, these are the days that we want to be there. If and when there is a situation like Churro Fest that happens at the same time as that, then we have that documentation, we coordinate early with them, they will still have that same vendor application for that particular day. Which is free of charge for nonprofits, but what that does allow is to ensure that any group participating in that event is receiving equal communications. I know we've had some issues with, different email chains because people aren't necessarily on the same grouping for specific events. So again, this is really just making sure that everybody has equal access, continued access. The city and the Main Street Program has continued to work vigorously to ensure that the farmers market has the access that it needs to that space and that it continues to be promoted. Again, this has been in the city for 13 years and we want to see it stay. We want to see it get stronger. We want to support it to do so. And we want to do that with a process that, again, as other organizations come in, they see a standard and a very high standard that they can also plug into.
From what it's council discussion only. It's an action item. We don't have to open it to the public. I would like to clarify that this is in no way intended to shut down the existing farmers market.
Absolutely not.
And never has been.
Absolutely not.
And it's more of a paperwork, filling out an application, that it being on record, because even though it's been here 13 years, we do not have a specific form.
Correct.
And the people that put it in place, other than Dana, are no longer here.
Right, and there's no existing kind of process on paper. I think we've seen that as the city grows, we need more of those standard procedures to make sure that those processes translate through the different tenures of council, of staff, et cetera. So it's really just about papering it.
So is there any way we can get with them to do, proper paperwork?
That's what this is for, not just for them, but for anybody that wants to have an event.
Is it limiting anything they're currently doing, or?
Just the paperwork.
Just the initial application?
Once you do that, let me ask you a question. Under the current process, there's basically no process. Is that correct?
Correct.
So is it right now, without an application process, it will continue to go on the way it has been, which is basically first come, first served. So anybody who sets up there before farmer's market could occupy that space.
Yeah, in theory. I mean, again, there's no process, there's no standard for this, so I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay, Ms. Autry, I have a question. Why is it a problem to have a space determined, an amount of space determined? Lots of times y'all don't use anywhere near the west side of the courthouse. Okay, thank you, ma'am. I don't see that. I read through it briefly, but we're gonna let each council member look at that. I think it's a very important matter, and I don't want to rush through it. It's never been our intent to rush through any decision, and I feel like personally, I have probably done a disservice to the public in the past because I didn't explain my reasoning for voting on things the way I did. So I want it to be adamantly clear why we're concerned about this.
And I also had a question regarding, has there been any type of collaboration with the farmers market in regards to, kind of, I think she spoke about a waiver. Has there been any type of consideration within kind of that framework?
There's been a lot of collaboration between Main Street and the city and the farmers market. There hasn't been collaboration on a waiver because there's been no process to have a waiver from.
Okay, so part of this is just establishing a paperwork trail in which a waiver could possibly be done in the future.
That is absolutely up to council's decision, and we would welcome those conversations.
Well, I personally am very fond of the fact of having a paper trail. Part of the problem we have now is that Judge Lewis is no longer county judge. Chris Moore isn't here, hasn't been here in several years. A lot of this was established when they were here without a paperwork trail. And we don't want that to happen for the future. We may agree with the paperwork trail, we may not agree with the paperwork trail, but we need a paperwork trail. And I don't think the intention of this has ever been to try to limit what you're doing. I understand the regulations associated with SNAP, but by the same token, if there were other people that might want to use part of the square, I think that there has been a real concern of nobody has had anything established to tell them, no, you can't, or yes, you can. And I think Mr. Lloyd's point of, what if somebody showed up at 5 a.m. and set up for a farmer's market before anybody else got there? The way it stands now, that could happen. I mean, it's not likely, but it could happen because we don't have a specific plan.
we're saying that they'll be able to set up from, 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. or,
I don't even think we're limiting, I don't even think the intent is to limit their time as much as it is to establish I think now they typically go to 1 p.m. or later. And I don't think that's the intention. It's just to designate that they, or if there was somebody else that wanted to be on a different part of the courthouse square, could turn in an application and do such.
So we're gonna say they can be on this part of the square from, just say 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. The first Saturday of every month, unless we're having another event with the city.
Well, and I mean, I think the whole point is to just get the paperwork started to put that in effect, not to even limit them. I don't think they've ever been shut down during an event. They may have been inconvenienced because there was a lot of people downtown, and I can understand that would be very frustrating to them. And that would be another safeguard of establishing a paperwork that says you have this space on these dates.
That's what you said. Is that gonna say they'll be able to maybe come here? What are we saying?
So, and there's also a coordination element.
So, may only an application. For
And
those specific days. So is there a problem if we do it like what she just said? That
And
way
there's
we-
also a coordination element, right? There is the, 1 or 2 days a year where the city has an event and we want to make sure to coordinate. But to Megan's point, let's say somebody else did come in and say, hey, I want this different stretch of Covington. Well, there's no process in place, so they can just take it, and there might be all sorts of exit issues. So this creates communication and coordination so that the logistics of the events and the logistics of just city traffic in general can be much cleaner so that all parties, any parties having events at a given time are successful.
Okay, if we establish this paperwork trail, which is how I'm viewing it, then any changes that affected them or any dispute between city staff and them would still come before the city council for discussion and for decision.
Yeah. And again, I just really want to reiterate that the city and the Main Street program are incredibly supportive of the farmers market. We want to see it there, we want to see it grow, and we want to collaborate with them. So any issues, we're very happy to work to resolve.
So this is only for establishing the initial process, right? It's not already
Yes, sir.
establishing rules, right? You're saying this is to get the paperwork going, but you're saying you don't have already set rules, right? This is kind of up to discussion still, or is it already setting certain guidelines already?
Is there an application already that you have?
There's guidelines for the information that we need. I think, any government document is a living, breathing thing, and so if issues arise, then we're certainly happy to come back and resolve them with the affected parties and with y'all. Right now, it just says, hey, we, need this information by this date, and it's not a formal application, but it's a communication of the information that is needed by the city to be able to approve.
So do you have an application for them to fill out? For the whomever.
Okay, I appreciate that, but that's, Tiffany said, we're trying to get a paperwork trail. Okay, the way I see this, then this document would protect both sides, would protect you as well. You're assuming it won't protect you. You don't know it because it's not in place. And I understand you're probably frustrated because things haven't always gone exactly. And I can certainly understand if you're told to be there at a time that's not normal, that would cause a problem. But if we don't establish some kind of paperwork, we can say you're there every Saturday from May 1 through October 31st or whenever you want it. That's all they're asking for is exact times. I did not see anything in there where it says. I don't think they're wanting you to say that Joe is going to have potatoes and somebody's going to have tomatoes. You can say we typically have no more than 20 vendors and we want the space from May 1 through the end of October. I think you're taking their request much more literally than it was ever intended. We just want to establish some kind of basis. And I mean, I love coming to the farmer's market. I'm in no way trying to reduce it.
Their actions speak louder than their words. And so, once your trust is broken, it's broken. And it's a sad thing when you go to other places and they refer to three ladies in Hillsborough as the mean girls.
Okay, we've had no more public comments. I'm sorry. I'm in charge. Yes, Alan. Please.
Going on. I mean, we just need to figure out what's going on to make it so everybody can be on the same page. We may not be on the same page, but at least they know we're trying. It's just me.
I think the key wording here is equitable. We need to make sure it's equitable for everyone, not preferential for some groups. And I think even the farmer's market would agree with that. I mean, government needs to be equitable, not preferential. Maybe we need to do some re-examining of our process before we act on it. So I would agree to take it.
I have no problem taking it. I agree that being notified on the short time frame of a change is not that's not appropriate. We should be given more notice than that. I still believe that getting the
I just want to thank you guys for your time. I appreciate your thoughtful discussion, and we look forward to working closely with you guys to find an application that is equitable for everybody, but also works for you.
Thank you, thanks.
Okay, the next item is to hold a public hearing, second reading, and deliberate on an ordinance amending Article 1.900 Historic Landmarks and Districts in the City Code of Ordinances, whereby the purpose is to add a section for definition of historic terms. Mr. Reinhardt?
Good evening. As I mentioned at the first reading, the purpose of this amendment is to create a section in the Historic Landmarks and Districts Ordinance for the definition of historic terms. Presently, those definitions are in the design guidelines for the historic districts, and the commission is looking at ways to simplify processes, make things more understandable for property owners that own property that are historic, and one of those ways is to put those definitions into the ordinance. They reviewed this, the Historic Preservation Commission reviewed this at their May 7th meeting, and they recommend their approval. The way this amendment is done is it's the exact same definitions in existence now, it's just putting those in the ordinance.
Councilors, any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve.
Second.
Aye.
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 Item number 11, hold a public hearing, first reading on an ordinance to increase water service rates.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, assembled Hillsborough folk. It has been no secret that the city of Hillsborough has been adjusting water rates roughly on an annual basis, beginning with a sharp increase in 2024. And we have telegraphed multiple times that we anticipated another increase this summer of approximately 15%. We've anticipated that because we know that Aquila Water Supply District has a multi-step rate increase to the city of Hillsborough to accommodate some improvements to their physical plant that are going to cost the city millions of dollars. However, staff believes that it is important for council to consider moving forward with a rate increase a couple of months earlier than we otherwise would, and for reasons that I'll go into. But I have had the benefit of having some questions and some concerns raised by folks on social media, and wanted to take a minute to kind of go through the previous rate increases, because one of the kind of feedback points that I've heard is, well, what you guys just raised rates. What did you do with the money we gave you last time? And so I think it's important that we look at what that process has been. So going back, and let me just say, the goal is to have council action in August, so that the rate increases take effect in October to coincide with the fiscal year change of the city and our rate changes with Aquila Water Supply District, where we get our, where the city gets our water. So in June of 2024, we did a 70% overall rate increase. It was massive, it was disruptive, it was unpleasant. It was not what anybody wanted, but it was necessary because the city had not done any meaningful rate increases in decades. What we had discovered is that we were losing money year over year in our water and wastewater fund because we were charging the rates we wanted to charge, not the rates that would actually pay for the cost of operating the water system. So for that reason, we determined that we were losing about $1 million a year at that point in rates that were not covering the cost of the service. And in addition, we determined that we needed to take some kind of action because the reliability of the system was so poor. We have line breaks that cause service interruptions multiple times a year. In some parts of town, if you live west of Cho, it may be multiple times a month. And in order for us to be able to make meaningful improvements, I mean, if we do nothing, the leaks and the interruptions are going to be more frequent every year because the lines get worse and worse. We have to take action just to get worse more slowly. What we've been doing historically is repairing leaks, but that doesn't actually make the system any more resilient or even slow down the rate of decline. What we have to be able to do is replace these water lines that are in some cases 100 years old or older. So we did this massive uncomfortable rate increase, 70%, and part of what we did is we changed the cost burden. We did a deep dive into who was paying for the water use and who was using the majority of the water. We determined at that time that 60% of the water was being used by industry and commercial users, but 60% of the revenue was coming from residents. So when we did this rate increase, we dramatically shifted the cost burden so that residents were paying for the residents' share and business and commercial interests were paying for their share of the water. That meant that while it was a 70% increase overall, business and industry, high users, saw a much greater increase than that, where your low water user, fixed income resident saw a much smaller rate increase. It was more like 20% at that time. So that was a big system change, and the goal was to increase revenue by about $2 million a year to cover that $1 million that we were in the hole and create enough money that we could have another crew, a backhoe, a truck to go out and replace water lines to get ahead of the thing. So that was the goal. And then, so we did that in June, and then I think in July we got a letter from Aquila raising our cost to them by $1 million. We had just done this big increase. We knew that citizens were stretched. It was beyond what anybody wanted to do, but we felt like it was necessary. We did not feel that there was the ability to then turn around and do another 20% increase, which is what it would have taken to absorb all of that $1 million hit that we were getting from Aquila. So instead, council did a 15% increase in November with the goal of increasing revenue by about $800,000. The Aquila increase ended up actually being about $1.1 million. So we knew that we were going to be short about $300,000, but we just felt like we couldn't do more than that. So this was the intention. The intention, and these are kind of round numbers, but just to put it in give you some idea of scale. We had about $3.9 million in water revenues in 2024, 70% increase followed by a 15% increase would have put us north of $7.1 million. Our cost to Aquila went from 2.6 million in 2024 to almost 3.8 million in 2025. The money that we paid for Aquila was 2/3 of what we were getting in terms of water revenue, leaving us with 1.3 million for operations. So the goal was, with those two increases together in 2025, to drop our percentage paid to Aquila to about 53%, giving us 3.3 million, right? So about $2 million extra dollars, fill the hole, and then be able to do some work to repair the system and actually start to gain some ground on this deteriorating infrastructure. Sadly, that's not what happened. Actual revenues for 2025 were 5.3 million. Aquila, as a share of our revenue, actually went up instead of down. We were left with about less than $300,000 instead of $2 million to work with, to close the $1 million gap, to do $1 million worth of system improvements. So those two increases together, it generated an increase of about 1.5 million in revenue, of which 1.1 million we gave to Aquila. So clearly, we still have $1 million operating gap. Clearly, we can't do those system-wide improvements. And I want to point out, the beauty of water revenue is that you don't know what you've got until the summer, when the fiscal year is almost over. Because the lean months of November, December, January, that's not when your high water usage is. And so you're kind of mostly done with the fiscal year before you really know how much trouble you're in. You get to July and the numbers are not numbering. So, October 2025, we get another $500,000 rate increase from Aquila. Council decided to increase total revenue by $1 million. Aquila originally was planning to come to us with another $1 million rate increase, and we went to them, and those of you guys who attend council meetings will remember this. We went to them and said, please do not raise it $1 million. If you do that, we can't make any system improvements. If we can make some system improvements, if we can replace some of these water lines, we can drop the loss, which our customers are currently paying for. If we can drop our water loss, it begins to get our fiscal house in order. But if we're giving every cent that we can raise rates to Aquila, we're never going to get there. And again, the system is getting worse and worse every year. The leaks are getting worse every year. Aquila listened to us. They went up by only $500,000. We did a full $1 million increase. It was 20%. It still felt like a lot. I don't think anybody out in the community was like, oh, wow, this was great. But, right? But we are still, we're at 1.73 and our goal was 3.3 million. So in terms of what about all that great stuff you were going to do? The money did not come in for us to do that. The money did not even come in for us to close the original gap. And if we were, Atmos or, electric service provider ABC, we would just triple your water rates. The city just found out that our electric rates for next year and the succeeding years are tripling, 300%. We know we can't do that, but neither can we charge what we want to charge, which is much, much less. We have to find a way to make some kind of progress and still respect the fact that people are stretched absolutely at their limits. So, what's the result of 2025's 20% increase? That one actually sort of worked. So it was low, and we were still low, but at least it did perform as expected. We're still behind by $1.6 million from where we needed to be, but we did some shifting of tactics. A handful of you guys know how happy this makes me. So when I look at this graph, which shows 5 full years of water usage. This is our water purchase from Aquila. So this includes all the leaks. This isn't what we're billing. This is water purchased from Aquila that our customers are sharing the cost of. When I look at that graph, what I see is a sharp decline in October, November of 2025, when we began replacing water lines. Now, we're not able to do it the expensive way. We have found a contractor, and we've basically hired him on a day rate and basically said, just kind of go until we run out of money. But if you look at that green line of 2025, there is not another point in 5.5 years of history where you see something happen that dramatic. And if you look at 2026 is the lowest number on that graph. Now, we have added people. We have added industry. We've added Buc-ee's, which is our second highest water user. And our water purchase from Aquila is lower. We are on the right track. It's not fast. It's not easy, but we are on the right track. Replacing water lines little by little. What would it take to really turn this around? What would it take for us to not have to do an increase? We need to get a bunch of money from somewhere. And we've got a grant application, we'll talk about that, that's due at the end of July from Texas Water Development Board. Council is aware that we have applied for $140 million in grants over the last 3 years alone. We have not received a penny in the last 3 years. Our last grant we got was in 2022, and it was for $500,000. It did like 3 blocks of water line, y'all. I mean, I'll take it from whatever we can get. But we've got an application due at the end of July for $7 million to Texas Water Development Board, and we get a lot of extra points if we do the engineering up front. Problem with that? That program didn't exist a year ago. This is the money that the legislature approved, and there was an election to move money from the rainy day fund and put it into water infrastructure. So this is a brand new program. It is 100% grant money. And you get 10 extra points, which is a lot in, grant application land. You get 10 extra points if you've done the engineering up front, making your project shovel ready. That engineering is going to cost $370,000, and it's got to be done by July. So council reviewed this in the spring. We went out for proposals. We selected an engineering firm to do that work, and we've got to have the money in order to pay that engineering. Looking at how the budget is progressing, that is the major reason that staff is coming and suggesting that we look at a rate increase a couple of months early. We still anticipate that starting October, we're going to have to give the additional, if a rate increase is approved, we anticipate that we're going to have to give that money to Aquila. We are anticipating that Aquila will increase our annual requirement, is what it's called, by $700,000 next year. But if we do the increase now, we get to keep the difference between now and then. And we've got $370,000 worth of engineering for the grant proposal project. Oh, sorry, there's a circle pointing out my exciting little thought. And we also have $530,000, sorry, that was scary. $530,000 worth of engineering that is required as an association with the Courthouse Square utilities relocation for the TxDOT project. Now, TxDOT is, and council is aware of this, but for those of you in the room who are not, Texas Department of Transportation maintains their state highways through town. That means Waco Street is theirs, so if you're mad about Waco Street, that one at least is you're not mad at me about. And if you're mad about Elm from the courthouse west, you're mad at them. They propose to completely rip out and rebuild Waco Street and Elm Street down to dirt, come back with concrete from basically the courthouse square south to about Gould Alley on Waco Street, and from Waco Street west to Houston Street on Elm. So that's a huge TxDOT project. But not only are they going to do that, they're going to do Franklin and Covington as well, which they don't have to do. That is huge. That is probably at least $1 million of value to the city of Hillsborough, maybe more. It's fantastic. Slightly complicating, though, is that we've got lots of stuff under those streets, like water lines and sewer lines. And once they cover it with a foot of fresh concrete, we're not going to be able to get at it very easily. And of course, it's all old and rusty and cast iron and deep and problematic. We've had so much trouble with that sewer line in Waco Street. It's really a big deal. So council approved earlier in the spring to go out and select engineering to prepare for that project and design the relocation of our utilities. There is about 40% of that project, so I said $570,000 of engineering to design the relocation of the utilities. $2.2 million to do the work. The design has to be done by the end of August. The work has to be done by the end of calendar 2027. TxDOT would pay for about 40% of that because one of those water lines, and I'll try to avoid getting into the weeds, but basically if our line was there before their highway and their highway messes up our line, that's their problem. If their highway was there first, it's our problem. In 22, in Elm Street, it's their problem. So they have to pay for that. The rest of it, though, is really like their project isn't disturbing those lines. So it's not really, it's our choice to move them. So one of the things that, and we'll get there, in terms of looking at options, we could remove those portions of the project. I just don't know that council wants to do that. So here we are, we're in June 2026. We're looking at a potential rate increase to increase revenue by $700,000 to $900,000. We're anticipating an Aquila increase of $700,000, and we're hoping to generate about $200,000 to help us go towards all that engineering, which we're going to need to pay for in July through September. This still doesn't resolve the prior issues, right? This still doesn't fix it. The problem that we have, though, is and this is, I know this is not how the community feels. I think the community feels like, well, every time things don't go your way, you just come back and raise water rates. It's sort of the opposite of that. Every time we do this, we do the very bare minimum of what we think we absolutely don't have a choice but to do. And so kind of the bigger picture problems really still persist. That's why this is a tough recommendation to make, because it doesn't really solve everything. It sort of continues the level of pain where we are. But I am, I continue to be an optimist, and I continue to try stuff. I think that we have shown that we can bit by bit grind out progress even under the current conditions. We continue to have projects in the plan underway right now to replace more sections of water line that we are confident are sources of big amounts of leak that are going to reduce our costs. We are confident that we're going to continue on that path and continue to make slow progress. We are hopeful that with a big project like a grant, we would be able to do a bigger chunk, reduce that water loss a considerable amount, and then start spinning that snowball right back in the right direction. And I think that's sort of our plan has been, do what we have to do with rates and everything that we possibly can to stretch that money as far as we can. And instead of raising rates big enough to solve the problem, so to speak, to continue to keep swinging for some kind of big project. So council's got options. You can do whatever you want. Among them, you could say, let's not do this increase yet. Let's wait and do it when we have to do it for October. We could remove the non-required utilities from the TxDOT project. That would drop that engineering by about $300,000. Problem with that is you create a much more expensive problem for the future in terms of repair, and those lines are probably costing us money in leaked water right now. The ordinance, the draft ordinance that was sent out with your packet, contains a 12% increase. That is sort of the bare minimum. That gets us the $700,000 that we think we're going to need next year to pay Aquila. It gets us about $180,000 to help with those engineering costs if we go ahead and do it now. Alternatively, the council could say, go ahead and do the 15% that we've been saying for a year we thought we were going to need to do. That does cover the Aquila increase and generates about an extra $300,000 over and above what we would have to pay for Aquila. That's, I'm talking about in fiscal 2027. In the summer, instead of the $180K towards engineering, it would give us about $225K. So those, you could do that, you could do nothing, you could say raise rates 300%, you could say don't raise rates again and we'll just, let things fall apart further. It's completely up to you. Here's how that would play out, and I've gone ahead and anticipated, because sewer rates are kind of less complicated. So I've sort of anticipated this. This shows a 2,000 gallon a month residential user. So your little old ladies on fixed income, we have a lot of water customers that use 1,000 gallons a month or less. Our median monthly water use is 3,500 gallons. So half of our residential water users use less than 3,500 gallons a month. So you can see the impact to 2,000 gallons versus 4,000 gallons. If we did 12% increase, it would go up by about $10.50. That's water and sewer and trash total for a 2,000 gallon user. For a 4,000 gallon a month user, it would go up about $13, water, sewer, and trash total per month. So by doing it now versus doing it in October, you're saving somebody or costing somebody $30 or $40 total. Man, we did so well. The clicker quits on me every time. Okay, here we go. So at this point, that's all staff has prepared on this item. If you have any further questions for me or want to open the public hearing.
We'll move to the public hearing portion for agenda item 11.
So that's a great question and one that we were super concerned about. I think from all I can tell, it's two things. Number one, people used less water. So turns out when something's more expensive, we buy less of it. Second, we've had 2 incredibly wet years. Now we're in a third very wet year. That all you can do is forecast. You know, you put the rates into effect and then let the world operate, and the world does what it does. Yeah, you never know. And that's why we did a $30 million application, we did 2 $55 million applications, and we haven't had an edge. Bigger cities, or cities that treat their own water and are in trouble with TCEQ because of violations. Sort of, we're not in the right kind of trouble to get extra points. So we're not, we haven't had an edge in terms of being competitive for these grant dollars. They're very, very competitive, and we're hopeful that not a lot of communities are going to be shovel ready, and that this will kind of push us to the top of the list, so to speak. Where's my clip? Sure. Yes, sorry. Me too, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes, that's right, and we dramatically increased tap fees. Dale? 4 to 6 months ago, we dramatically increased water tap fees, and we had some conversation. I think there were some folks here that were in the meeting when we had that conversation, and the discussion was, what impact is that going to have on current residents? And the answer is none. It's going to impact this new development that's coming in. Yes, we dramatically increased the water and sewer tap fees. But it doesn't impact our budget. Yes. Yes. The budget overall. Yes. I want to go back to the question about what we did with that. When we did the 20% increase last year, and we said we were going to do work on lines, we replaced the line from the College Tower to the Outlet Mall. When you put it that way, it makes it sound like it's to benefit the Outlet Mall, but that's not the case. It's an 8-inch transmission line that carries a lot of volume and a lot of pressure, because the College Tower is the highest pressure water tower that we have in our system. And it was leaking a tremendous amount, kind of all the time. When we saw that dramatic decrease in water consumption, that was when we made that line replacement. So that was specifically very targeted, and we have another, $400,000 worth of line replacement that's scheduled to happen during this fiscal year. It's underway now, but it is not yet completed, and I can't wait to see that line drop down again based on that work, because that is going from the industrial park to Craig Street, and it's another line that's back out kind of in the boonies and is leaking some unknown amount of water. So the $500,000 from last year's increase has been partially spent, has already produced a return, is continuing to be spent, and is continuing to produce a return just exactly as communicated. Yes, ma'am. the Yes, ma'am. Thank you for sharing that concern. The goal is to raise rates once a year, basically in August. So this year, we're proposing to do it a couple of months early for the reasons that we've talked about, but we would not expect another increase until next August. And the goal is to get to where the annual increase is, you know, couple 3%. I mean, we understand that our citizens are stretched. We have heard from folks who say, look, I don't mind paying a little bit more if it means that I know that I can take a shower every time I need to take a shower. But we also hear from people who say we're stretched right the way that we are. We, you know, over the last 3 years doing the things that we've talked about, have really made the effort to try to meet both of those needs. We have kept increases very, very limited, and for that reason, we have not seen a steep improvement, but I'm proud of the improvement that we've made, and I think we can continue it. We're at an increase of 700,000, so they're in the millions, but I have. They assured, I'm sorry, they assured me it would not be more than 700,000. Yes, sir. No, sir. I don't believe I quoted it because I don't remember it off the top of my head. Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
I can certainly ask. They were hired back in, I want to say March. So, and they were hired when we did the procurement for the engineering firm. We specified that the work would have to be done in time for the grant application. So they've done the surveying. They're underway. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. So we have a water, I think it's use and purchase agreement with Aquila. As a matter of fact, council just approved an update to that agreement last fall. The agreement is in place sort of in perpetuity. And back in the 80s, I think the 80s, is before I remember, but back around the 80s, Aquila Lake was essentially constructed primarily for the city of Hillsborough. Before that, Hillsborough used water wells as its source water. In the agreement that set up Aquila Water Supply District, they had to borrow a boat ton of money to build all of their improvements, their physical plant, all of the lines, their whole system. And the city of Hillsborough had to commit to purchasing X amount of water. We also had to commit to filling up our water wells. So all of the wells have been filled with concrete. We burned our boats. We're totally committed to Aquila. And we are something like 70% of their water customers. The other customers are the surrounding water supply corporations that serve the unincorporated areas all around us. So all of our water comes from Aquila, and we have a take-or-pay contract. So we pay more for the treated water that we buy, but we also pay for the untreated water that we don't buy. We get about, 1.3 billion gallons, give or take, in our contract. Maybe it's 1.5. We used, in 2025, 744 million gallons from Aquila. Of that 744 million gallons that we used, we billed customers for about 45% of that. So when I talk about water loss being expensive, I mean it's albatross weighing us all down expensive. It's 430 million gallons last year expensive. It's killing us. And it's not that there's a water leak over on, Elm Street we don't care about. It's that this system is so old and all of the lines are essentially Swiss cheese that the water is running out underground into cracks and crevices that never even daylights. We're sort of lucky if we can see it leaking because then we can go find it, but it's just disappearing subterraneously throughout the system. And 40% of our system is either cast iron or asbestos cement pipe. The former has worn away to nothing, and the latter is incredibly brittle. Our clay soil expands and contracts, and it's all got to be replaced. The estimate to replace all of the asbestos cement and cast iron pipe in town is something like $55–65 million, depending on whose estimate you use. We think if we could get the first 10 million, if we were lucky and it was the leakiest, and we've got, engineering support to select which sections, if we could get sort of the leakiest, we think that that would create a virtuous cycle, because what happens if, at the end of our I'm sorry, I'll try to make this brief, but at the end of every contract year with Aquila, September 30th, at the end of our fiscal year and theirs, there is a true-up. So our annual requirement, what we pay them, is based on how much water they think we're going to use, which is based on how much water we've been using. My hope and prayer is that this summer they're going to owe us money, because we've replaced some lines, we've dropped that water loss, and we're going to have used less than they anticipated that we would use. Now, what will happen next year is they rejigger all of the cost share, but so they still have to raise what they have to raise, but our percentage will go down, and the surrounding customers' percentage will go up once we can get this lost water under control. Doing that little by little, we can get that number down year over year. Every dollar we save, we can put back into line replacement. I mean, we're gutting this thing out. If we get a project that kickstarts everything and we begin to see the benefit and get to a place where we're all hoping to get, where we can actually lower water rates again, that is absolutely the goal. Until then, we are gutting it out line by line, block by block. Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. Because we're essentially their only customer, I mean, we're 70% all by ourselves. Having just gone through the renegotiation with Aquila, I'm not sure that we have as much wiggle room, but we'll certainly keep that in mind. Is essentially the contract. The contract requires us to pay the annual requirement that they dictate. So all of the members of the board live in Hillsborough, but whatever they determine the annual requirement to be, that is the cost that we have to pay. Yes. Well, the amount that we purchase that is treated, and the amount that we purchase that we own that is untreated, we don't pay the same rates for those. But yes, we have to pay for all the water that we have a right to. We 20 years ago or so, we relinquished some of the water that we have a right to. We sold it. We would not do that deal again. We would rather continue to pay for the water we're not using yet, so that we continue to have the right to use it in the future. No, it includes commercial too. Yes. I just figured that would be what most people would be concerned about. Ma'am. one example would be to get a big grant. You know, so a, you know, $7 million grant would be great. You know, $30 million grant would be better. Something like that would be fantastic. Something else that would help would be a major industrial project. Talking about residential use, anything that, so with residential use, you get a lot of additional value, property tax value. You also get a lot of additional water use, and a lot of new water customers. So a bunch of people or one big people using a lot of water would create a lot of money coming into the system that we then could use to make these repairs a lot faster. I don't want to talk about data centers. A big project of an industrial type that used 50 or 100 million gallons of water a year would use a fraction of what we are leaking on the ground right now, and would pay in 100 million gallons a year in water use at our rates is like $2+ million a year in water bill payments. I could take that to the bank, get $10 million, replace the water lines, and free up enough water to supply that business with water. All I'm saying is, we are going to continue to gut it out little by little until something big, and we're going to continue to look at opportunities and hope that we find one that is both helpful in terms of that, but also good for the city.
Okay, let's move on to item number 12. We're moving on. We have your time. Item number 12 is hold a public hearing, first reading, and an ordinance to increase wastewater service rates.
So remember when I said we used less water because it was more expensive? Wastewater is calculated based on how much water you use. So wastewater rates have been steady for decades, but because our water rates increased and our water usage dropped, our wastewater revenue has also dropped. So what we're trying to do with the wastewater rate increase, and this is the first one in a really long time, we just want to gently correct for the lost revenue in declining water use, and cover a little bit of just regular, year-over-year increases in costs. So this is not a big, it's going to sound like a big percentage. We're looking at like 10% for residential and 30% for commercial, but because the rates themselves are low, it's not a lot in terms of actual dollars. So, and the other thing is the wastewater rates, because they've not been adjusted, continue to follow the format that was before the 2024 water rate complete reworking. So they continue to have a base rate that includes your first 2,000 gallons of usage. On the water side, your base rate says this is what it costs to have a meter, for us to bill you, for us to mess with you as part of our system, and then you only pay for the water that you use, but it's above that base rate. Wastewater, you still have that 2,000 gallons included in the base rate. So the suggestion is that we drop that base rate, because you're no longer getting 2,000 gallons, so drop it down, and then go from $2.69 per 1,000 gallons to $3 even for residential. So there we go. So currently, the base rate for all customers is $17.33. We're recommending that it go down to $13. And then for your first 2,000 gallons, it would be $3 per 1,000 and $3 per 1,000 forever after. So basically, for a 2,000 gallon water user, the base rate would go from $17.33 to $19 even. We're also suggesting that for non-residential users, we go up to $3.50. That's still, in terms of absolute dollars, a modest increase. But because commercial users, and particularly industrial users, can occasionally complicate our wastewater system, and we need to kind of monitor what they're doing, we think it's appropriate to have a slightly higher charge. again, going back to this comparison for residential users, 2,000 gallons versus 4,000 gallons, the wastewater rates would go up by, $1.67 for a 2,000 gallon user, $2.29 for a 4,000 gallon user. Not a big change.
I don't really have much, I wouldn't say a question, more of kind of a statement regarding the wastewater. I feel like it'd be more responsible for the industrial commercial side to absorb more of that cost, because I see that on item number 14. We're trying to introduce a water conservation plan, so I feel like if the residents were already saving water to begin with, why should they be penalized, shouldering that cost, right? Because we're trying to incentivize this, and I feel like it created a bad precedent in terms of, well, they're saving water, but the rates are still going up for the residential use. So that's the one kind of something I would kind of look into maybe is, incentivize us to conserve the water, and then the people who are profiting, industry, commercial, then at that point they would shoulder that part instead of the residents.
I'm not sure I'm following exactly what you mean. Can we set a time to go through that so that staff could prepare a draft?
So, you guys already know what I'm gonna say. I'm the only one that's on fixed income up here, and right now, I know my water bills is extremely high. And if you go up another percentage, it's, and Dale is already charging me more. That 144, you charged me 145 already, Dale's charging too much money. So that's just gonna, I know we have to do it, Megan, because I know we have to do something. But right now, with everything going on, and it's just,
Megan, I'm going to agree with Ms. Robinson over here, but my question to you is, and this was probably discussed prior to me getting on city council, but what other options have you looked into besides, hey, let's raise fees for residents? Like, are you able to break that down? And we don't have to do it now, because I'm sure it's a lot, but I would like to know that as well.
Yes, ma'am.
we did this 7 months ago, so we'll have to do this again. We do this tonight. So when, no, I'm just saying if we did this tonight, so in like 7 more months, we're gonna go up again. I'm just trying to get to the number.
No, ma'am. The goal is to do it every August. And the reason we're doing it a couple of months early this time is because we have this specific engineering stuff for this summer.
Okay, council has no other questions. We'll move to the public comments portion.
So what I said was any large water user, large industrial type water user using 50 or 100 million gallons a year. If we had something like that, 50, 100 million gallons a year, we could do enough line replacements with that revenue. We could bank that revenue up front, do those line replacements, and stop leaking more water than that thing would need. So ultimately, if we had a project like that and were able to do those line replacements as described, we would be using less water, not more. No, sir, you do a utility services agreement, and upfront that use that to secure the funding for the construction. I'm not talking about, there's no they. This is a hypothetical situation. In the event of a hypothetical situation, it would be in the city's interest and the company's interest to come up with some kind of agreement that would work. Anybody, and I'm not, people are gonna hear me say this and think I'm secretly talking about a data center. I'm talking about an industrial user. This could be IKO 2.0 that wants to come in and use, IKO uses about 20 million gallons a year. So let's say IKO's big brother wants to come in and use 50 million gallons per year. They're gonna come to the city and talk about water reliability, and we're gonna say to them, we need to get a utility services agreement with you that we can bank, because in order to give you the reliability that you need, we need to be able to do line repairs. So this is yes, the work would have to be done up front, but in a situation like that, it would be in the interest both of the business and of the city to get that work done up front and to paper it accordingly. Yes? 20-ish. They pay a lot more. So the rates stair step up. So if you use a greater volume of water, so they are paying roughly $16 per thousand, whereas a resident is paying roughly $9. Yes. Yes, sir, that's what we did in 2024. Yes, sir, I will respond to that by saying a 20% increase on the $50,000 a month water bill that they're already paying, that 20% increase is a lot higher. They're paying $10,000 a month more when we do a 20% increase, whereas a resident is paying $8 a month more. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. We're not super confident that there's a good solution. Groundwater in this area is fairly limited. It's brackish down to a certain level, and there are a lot of other developments sucking that groundwater. It is possible, and we are in the process of looking into using it to supplement industrial use, particularly because it doesn't have to be potable. But in terms of being a long-term, reliable source of drinking water for our population, we've not seen anything that indicates that that's a better solution than trying to get and treat water from Lake Whitney or raise the level of Lake Aquila, which we're also separately working on, but that's, a topic for another night. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's move on to agenda item 13.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, you recently approved increases in trash service costs. This is just an ordinance that passes on that to the customer. So we approved an increase with Frontier of 5% for residential and 10% for commercial customers. This is the ordinance that then charges the customers.
Okay, any council members have any questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the public hearing. Anybody wishing to address this item? Anybody else have a comment? Yes.
Because their contract provides for a 5% increase, and the increases between the residential and commercial fall within the 5% overall for the contract. So the difference is that they're not increasing on manifested waste, and instead of increasing manifested waste by 5%, they're going up 10% on commercial. So it's essentially 5%, 10%, and 0, which is less than what it would have been if it were 5% across the board. The contract was approved, I think, in April of 2025. And their contract, like the contract with Republic, allows an annual increase based on the Consumer Price Index. The residential trash collection rates, as proposed, are still lower than they were under the Republic contract. And the commercial rates are right around the same price as they were under the Republic contract.
Moving on, let's go to agenda item 14, deliberate and act on a resolution approving the water conservation plan for the city of Hillsborough.
Mayor and council, you have in your packet a draft water conservation plan. This plan was originally generated by the city's engineering firm, MRB Group, but has been amended to add considerable detail by the city's process improvement specialist. That includes specific goals in terms of activities that the city is conducting in addition to line replacement to lower our water loss.
Council members have any questions concerning this agenda item? Okay, this is an action item. Entertain motion.
it's not material. You could, it's not material.
Is there a second?
Second. Aye.
I'm gonna abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and now we'll move on to agenda item 15, hear and deliberate on the city manager's report.
Is it sometimes working, or are you just doing it? The clicker hates me. We replace the batteries every week. Okay, so new faces. We have 8 strategic goals in the city's strategic plan. The first council meeting of the month, we do goals 1 through 4. And I'll hit goals 1, 2, and 4, and then Assistant City Manager Tony Kane will hit goal 3, because that's the way we do it. And here's just 2 seconds on the actual strategic plan so that you can see that. All right, so not a lot on goal 1, responsible equitable growth. We continue to have 1,500 or so single-family houses in the pipeline. Continue not to really see a lot of movement on raising the level of Lake Aquila. Focusing really on making better use of our existing water by reducing water loss. That's kind of the lowest hanging fruit, and as you've seen, it's not particularly easy, but it's easier than raising the level of Lake Aquila. Okay. Goal 2, fostering transparency and connection. We're so excited. I'm terrified. We're on camera. But we are live streaming to the city's YouTube channel. Our microphones are plugging into the audio, which has been a big issue trying to record city council meetings in the past. We're grateful to Assistant City Manager Kane and Kian Lind for putting this plan together, and to Jasmine for being willing to take on not only city secretary duties, but also audio-visual tech, so appreciated. We'll see how it goes. We continue to use in-person newsletter, newspaper, website, and social media to share information. We are receiving the coverage of city council meetings from the reporters so that we can archive those articles on our website, but if you want to see them live, you definitely need to subscribe to the reporter or listen to KHBR. We have been there's been a lot of social media activity because people are concerned about various things. Water rates, outlet mall excitement, and the data center project have been top topics. So you've seen there's a lot of social media engagement. We have updated the website and will continue to do so. So I want to highlight a couple of sections. We've added project information and transparency topics. So if you go to the transparency section of our website, you can see finance and budgets and records and access and various things, and we'll be adding topics to that. So if there are areas that citizens want to know about, we want to be able to have them up there so that people can just go and see for themselves. On the projects page, you'll see Outlet Mall redevelopment, Texas Theater, downtown rooftop lighting, Eclipseboro. So current and past projects will show up there, and you can see how did this come to be, where was the authority, what were the decisions that were made, and be able to assure yourself that you understand how those projects happened and what their makeup and cost were. Goal 4, deliver efficient and effective government. We've talked about the comprehensive planning process. We are getting close on the end of the construction of the comp plan. So chapters 1 and 2 are being laid out with graphics right now. We expect to receive chapters 3 and 4 by the end of this month. And then there will be a joint P&Z and City Council work session to discuss that draft. We anticipate that that will be scheduled sometime in the middle of August, with the goal being that the final comp plan would go to planning and zoning on August 24th and to the City Council at their September 15th meeting. Over in Human Resources, we continue hiring and interviewing for open positions and working on policy updates. Want to talk a little bit about process improvement. It's been a long night, so I'm going to spare you guys all of the details here, but the city hired a process improvement specialist to walk alongside, starting with our water department, moving into wastewater and streets, but focusing really on water to say, what are we doing that is less efficient than it could be? What are our processes? And so we've been working on a minimum night flow program to establish a baseline night flow level that would then, if we deviate from that flow, we know we've got a major leak. That would enable us to begin the process of trying to more proactively respond to potential leaks. Meter accuracy testing program. So we're determining the number of water meters that would be statistically significant and testing those on a proactive basis. That's not something that the city has historically done, but it will improve our water audit and improve the validity of our data. And basically, it will help us find if meters are not accurate. Okay. And then there's a process of flow charting for the billing department. This is addressing potential apparent water losses, because if there's an error in billing, then that affects our revenue. So we know how much water we're getting from Aquila, but we need to sort of more accurately map and troubleshoot the billing process so that we know that the second a meter isn't functioning properly, we're acting on it right away and not waiting until it gets to the billing cycle, because at that point there could have been, as many as 30 days of incorrect water readings. So the sooner we can find errors and resolve them, the more accurate our billing is going to be, and the more accurate our water usage information is going to be. So all of those programs working together: minimum night flow, meter accuracy, billing flow charting, all addressing non-revenue water and trying to get us more accurate. Moving on to staff activity and events, we have a staff convocation planned for June 15th. That's kind of an all hands on deck communication and just I don't want to say rally, but just to sort of say, these are the things we're working on together. Let's celebrate some successes and talk about what's coming up for the rest of the year. So that's happening on June 15th. We've got a bunch of Bonds Alley and Bonds Alley related and Firefly related activities coming up the weekend of June 12th and 13th. Excited about that. And that does it for me. So before kicking it over to Assistant City Manager Kane, I would entertain any questions from council.
Good evening, Mayor, Pro Tem, and council members. Update on Goal 3, supporting preservation and beautification. Staffing update related to our code enforcement department. We're starting a new person, one of our new community enhancement team members next week. We're shooting for June the 8th. Our grass clipping program staff continues to address the issue. Knoxville Stop spoke with one of the owners. They have no concrete plans in place, but they are keeping up with the grass and the way it looks. The Amigos project, owners still plan on completing the project, but unknown restart date. 81 Motel projects is complete and is in operation. Building and Standards Board meeting, we will not have one in June. Curb cleanup and donation bins, staff continues to address the issue based on calls or being proactive as they're out and about. Traffic light, a lot of people are happy about this. Franklin Street and Elm Street, the traffic lights are up. tires. We have a part-time employee who's out of school for the summer, so he is going to be helping with picking up tires throughout the city. Alleyways, staff starting to address this issue by educating residents and homeowners on the ordinance. Parade route, we have late bloomers and Peabody coming up next month, so staff's checking those routes to make sure we can address as many issues as possible. Mow list, currently we have 24 properties on the list that the city will go out and mow. Council, any questions for me?
I have a question, regarding the mow list. If we go out and mow a specific yard because it's been time for a long period of time, do we in turn bill that property owner or put a lien on that property?
Typically, after the second